Well, you got any show before the show stuff?
Yeah,
I know you.
I think I've given myself laryngitis from screaming yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep.
From Steve's meat.
Yep. Don't have a voice, so that's good.
That's good for
Great
podcasting.
shit, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, it seemed like it was a good turnout all around, like 40-ish.
It was a very, very nice gym. Shout out to Arsenal Strength in Huntsville for having a good gym. And it was a small gym, but it was very, very efficiently placed and ran for a small gym. So there was plenty of warm-up area, which is rare anyway, but especially in a gym that size. And it got hot. That was the only problem is it got, there was a lot of bodies in there. There was a lot of spectators.
Oh, really?
A couple hundred probably.
Wow. That's nuts.
Yeah, it was.
Normally
it was
it's like 1 or 2 per lifter.
I had sweaty balls from being in there all day. It was very, very fucking hot.
It's crazy.
Still nobody watching. It's okay.
That's okay. For those of you tuning in on the Spotify or YouTube side, we are doing it on IG Live today on a whim because Zach said, hey, let's do it on IG Live. And I said,
maybe it'll be good.
Why not?
We don't know.
What do you mean?
So maybe it'll be good. IG Live.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Can't be bad for us. Right?
Worst case scenario, it's just there and nobody listens. Best case scenario, people pop in and say hi and interact a little bit, but we're not gonna
tell us we're stupid.
Ask us what we're drinking. But
yep,
this is all show before the show stuff.
All show before the show stuff. And by the way, normal show before the show stuff is
drinks.
Well, how to make the drink, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily what we're drinking, but in order to make the drink, you got to know what we're drinking. So. Got a rum old fashioned. I don't know the name of the brand of the rum.
John Emerald.
Mm-hmm. John Emerald rum, made right here in Opelika, Alabama. Yep. It's in Lee County, down around Auburn. It's a weird rum, and then it's kind of like almost seasonally flavored. It tastes like licorice a little bit. Yeah. So if you're a fan of Jägermeister or Absinthe, it has a similar. It's like spiced rum plus Jägermeister or something is what it tastes like. But we did a rum old fashioned with a little bit of lime juice and orange bitters and some simple syrup. And it's surprisingly fucking good because neither one of us liked the liquor by itself.
Yeah, it was a little rough by itself. It was very hot and it was very licoricey. So I'm not a fan of black licorice. So it was off-putting when I took a shot of it. And I was like,
it's also not what you expect from rum.
No, not at all.
That's like ordering coffee and finding out you got Dr. Pepper or something.
Right, yeah. It's very just like,
what the fuck is this?
Yeah, for real. But in the old fashioned, it turned out pretty good. So I'm happy with it. Just checking the live.
Yeah, I'm going to do that all day.
It's okay. Just peeking on it.
That's what it is. So what are we talking about?
Recovery.
Recovery?
Yep. Just blanket. I've got a bunch of points.
Good. I got some rants I can go up on recovery.
Yeah.
The name of a specific strength sport that I'm currently may or may not be feuding with because they keep pissing me off.
I was curious if you were going to.
And how they are 100% sure that all their professional athletes are drug free.
Yeah. Because you can recover at a professional level with no drugs. I mean, you can, but these guys.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's the show before the show. I guess we can get into it.
Yeah.
Welcome to Sip It and Rip It. I'm Zach. He's Nathan. You can find us at Coleman_Barbell and at Nathan Skedios and at Sip It and Rip It. You can watch us on YouTube. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Wherever you want to listen, please listen to us. Share it. Bitch and moan about the things we say if you want to. Any type of interaction is good interaction on the internet. So
here's the thing that I would point out. I don't know if anyone can really bitch and moan about what we say other than the fact that they are extremely like linear one-minded and we are very branched off and open-minded because we don't necessarily just diss on shit like because it's different.
I'm not today.
well I said diss on it because it's different, not because it's wrong. Yeah, we will diss on stuff that is actively wrong, but
it is what it is, I guess. But so we're going to be talking about a little bit of recovery today. But first, if you didn't listen to the show before the show, we're drinking a rum old fashioned with John Emerald rum. We were spotty on the rum itself, but it's good in rum old fashioned. That's all I got to say. If you want the recipe, watch the show before the show, please.
Yep.
And then, that's pretty much it on the drink. So, we get right into what we did in the gym this week.
Yeah. We can.
Go ahead.
For me, it was not much. Same old, same old. This is week 1 of my second block that I've been writing. So far, my biggest takeaway is that 5 days a week is probably not going to work for me because I keep on missing at least one day. So it's kind of one of those things where it's always a recovery thing. It's always, I don't feel like I'm capable of going in on usually one Wednesday. So I feel like I just have to, I'm going to try and see how things go at the end of this, see if I can make it. If I can, we'll see. I'm also supposed to be going to QC Wellness to go over my blood work and get my prescriptions. And that'll be on the 20th.
Hell yeah.
So that's about a little over a week.
Hell yeah.
So when I find all that stuff out, I'll be able to really determine. And once I start it, I'll be able to determine whether I'm going to be capable of doing 5 days a week at the rate that I'm going, or if I need to scale back or cut a day out entirely, which is what I'm leaning towards because I've always been a fan of 4-day weeks anyway. But we'll see how it goes.
Sure.
I wouldn't say it was an unproductive week, but it was a week where, I did do one thing. I did kind of isolate some issues with lower back pain in that I squatted with the flat shoe instead of a heel shoe and focused on ribs down, and it did seem to work. Didn't have too much lower back pain, a little bit of knee pain, probably just because it's not used to it. So the positioning was a little bit different, but I was also doing high bar squatting, and it was like intense on my mid back. So that was a little weird. But other than that, I think we found a good middle point, at least a change. And there was, I did something that we both started doing just recently in the kickstand squats.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
those are brutal. Like even body weight, they're brutal.
Yeah. I've been weighting them slightly, but not as much as I'd probably like. But you also don't have me doing them in a superset or anything. So, it might be different if I wasn't doing them that way. But it does seem to be a better alternative to a lunge for me at the moment. Anyway.
It's also really good for knee health. So anyone who has knee issues should definitely
probably
look into
that.
them.
Yeah.
I definitely noticed that my knees were kind of sore, which was really weird. After I got out of my car on the way to work, I stepped out and I was like, my knees kind of hurt. And I was like, I think that's just soreness.
I feel like it's a very head of the quad soreness. Like very, very much like in that
at the
attachment.
very top. Yep.
Yeah. So, but I felt like they were very productive, and I got to get good pumps from them, and pretty fucking effective. So that's obviously a big thing for me and you right now, because obviously I'm not having the easiest time with hips and knees right now either. So it just kind of is what it is. But it was deload week for me, so nothing interesting happened other than I did get out of pocket to slap around a bench press a little bit. But 365 for 3 on close grip, completely out of pocket. But I don't feel like it messed with my recovery too much, because generally recover pretty fast from upper body days, and the rest of the week was super easy. So I mean, I got out of pocket, but I don't recommend doing that. But I did. Sorry.
Yeah. One of those things. I wasn't too mad about it because it was still PR, and like we just saw in just like a couple weeks that there is a strength strength increase there.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. By at least really like 1.5 reps.
Yeah.
So that was really, really
It
good.
did come off the chest. It was just the tricep again,
As
which
fast
is
as it was moving, you would think that fourth one was going to go, though.
Yeah, it's always, man.
When you run out of tricep, you run out of tricep.
Yeah, there's just nothing left.
There's nothing left in it. But I can't be mad at it. And I did do that a little bit, being a smart ass to Austin, because he posted the 365 comp grip for 3. He absolutely moved it a lot faster than I moved it. He dominated it. But I just kind of wanted to poke at him a little bit, because he's stronger than me at everything. So
anything you can catch up.
Yeah, anything that I feel like I got something on, I got to pick on the boy about a little bit. So it is what it is.
It's okay. He deadlifts and straps. It doesn't matter.
I mean, he still deadlifts more than me barehanded too, at least for now. I think I can deadlift with him right now.
Yeah.
I'm 20 years and a full hip replacement away from squatting with him. It's probably never gonna fucking happen.
Right. Both old. When we're all old men, maybe we'll be on the same level on squat.
Maybe.
We'll see.
I'm behind the whole world on squat, though. I'm pretty sure I'm going to press more than I squat the next competition. So
I don't know about that. I still think we'll hit the 500 mark. I think we'll be there.
500 when I need 7.
Well,
problem. You know what I mean?
That's.
It is what it
I
is.
needed. over 6 and I got 560. So, you know, you just take what you can get, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we make up for it on the lifts we're good at, I guess.
Yep.
But I so desperately want to be good at squats, though,
Yep.
because I love them so much. I would rather squat than do anything else in the gym, and they hate me so much. They do not love me back at all.
It's that toxic
sucks.
relationship.
It's a
with
toxic
squats.
relationship. Yeah. They just beat the fuck out of me, and the only thing I want to do is squats. Like I get to squat tomorrow. I'm so excited. You can tell me I was squatting Tuesday, and I would be excited.
It's like
I can always get up for squat day.
you know, the Harley Quinn Joker relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone talks about how they want to be Harley Quinn in the relationship until you are Harley Quinn, and you
Fuck me, that
you are Harley Quinn, and squats are the Joker, and
Yeah,
they just beat
absolutely.
the fuck out of you, and they do not care about you.
I am
They throw
squats
you into
bitch.
danger
Yeah,
every
that's
day.
it. Not very much fun. I'm really excited about getting to impose my will on some deadlifts this block, though.
Yeah,
So they are deficits still, but I'm looking forward to having some weight back on the bar.
yeah,
So
it'll be fun. I think
yeah, it'll be really fucking good. Super excited about that.
yeah.
I think the deficits are going a long way for me just in terms of learning a little better leg drive and stuff like that. So
Definitely.
they've been pretty beneficial already. So
Yeah, they helped me a lot with getting my slack pull and then just being able to engage my quads at the bottom better. So
yeah.
I think it's
good
worth-
shit.
Yeah, I'm happy to be
100%.
back on just a regular deadlift bar though.
We should have more to talk about next time we record, which will likely be 2 weeks because we both have plans. I'm not 100% sure yet, but yeah, next time we record, we should be talking about some more exciting shit than deload
Yeah.
week. I hope.
Right? Yeah, hopefully. So.
Y'all call us on deload week. It just is what it is. We're responsible and we're deloading.
Yeah. Well, mine
For
was
the one person watching, we deloaded.
Yeah, we deloaded.
Congratulate us.
Yeah. Are they still here? Do we still have the one? Yeah, we still have the one.
We still got one. I don't know
man.
what the fuck they're thinking, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
stopping in. So PR songs?
Yeah, my phone is on the tripod, so I'm gonna have to go like old school and come up with something off the top of my head because I haven't been. Well, I know the name of the band. Actually, it's a newer record for me. I said I knew the name of the band. It just like escaped me all of a sudden. Boy, oh yeah, the name of the band is Dealer.
Dealer.
Yeah, and it's kind of some noisy, like kind of deathcore stuff. A little erratic. Don't know the name of the EP, but it's their EP from 2021. So listen to the Dealer EP from 2021. It's fucking good.
There you go.
And that's going to be my entry for PR songs for the week because I can't look at my phone to tell you what it is. So
Yeah, I
appreciate you, but
Right.
listen to
Hey.
the band Dealer and listen to that newest EP because it fucking rules.
It does. I don't have anything written. I almost always have something written down because I always find new music. But I can tell you, Austrian Death Machine put out a new song, and I fucking love all of their music because it's so funny. It's all gym stuff. Like this whole album, I think is going to be all gym stuff. That's either like old Arnold movies or gym stuff.
Hell yeah.
And this one is called "Don't Be Lazy," and literally the chorus is "Don't be lazy, re-rack your weights." And I'm just like, fuck yeah. Like,
Please re-rack your weights. Okay, so there are a couple people watching. Joey's watching now, I think. And who else we got? Ryan Akite, Peter. I don't know if all three of them are still there or not. But are we all okay with the courtesy plate left on the leg press?
I am.
Like, I'm okay if you leave one plate on the leg press. Like, I'm not going to shit my pants over that.
Yeah. I'm
Like,
okay.
I'm not going
with
to
it.
get mad at anybody leaving a plate on the leg press.
I wouldn't care about that sort of thing. It's just when it's multiple plates. And also my thing is I don't want to leave it on there because, you know, there's always going to be some random old lady who wants to do a leg press.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, and you know, they do have the stacks that are more suitable for the old ladies,
Yeah.
but maybe grandma's like killing it and
She might be
wants
doing
to-
what we're doing, man. I mean,
yeah,
like,
I mean, you never know. So she might be wanting that leg press, but she can't do a full plate yet. But she's, you know, maybe she's a grandma that watches Dr. Mike, and she
Maybe.
gets that full range of motion on her leg press.
platform to taint. Like,
Yeah, and she's just like, I can only do it for 25s, but she is banging them out. You know what I mean? So
Hey, I mean, that's true. Yeah. But I'm not going to get mad at somebody else for leaving me the courtesy plate.
I don't get mad at it. I just won't personally do it anymore.
fair.
Like I used to always, especially at our old gym. But now I'm like, I could probably leave it because there's very few old ladies in there and very few of them even work with machines at all or any sort of weight. They usually just do cardio. There's a couple of them that do, but I just try to be.
It is the courteous thing to do.
Yeah,
Re-rack your shit.
Re-rack.
I hate it when people don't. Brian says, "Yeah, it's cool. Leave a plate on the leg press," but I hate it when people leave shit on almost anything else, and I hate it when dumbbells don't get returned back to
that. I think that was the biggest point.
I fucking hate seeing a dumbbell left out.
Yeah, just like
it's always something you need to. It's always in that 35 to 75 range. That's like the most common weights to use. Like,
and they're always at the top, right? And then they're always like too lazy to pick them up and put them up, or they're too weak to actually do it. Like they could pull them down, but they can't put them back up.
Like fucking do one dumbbell at a time if you got to. Get the motherfucker back up there.
It's just.
I hated it at our gym too, because me and you were probably the only two people pressing like big dumbbells at Hartsel. But like you go get 100 plus, and they're always like in some random corner somewhere, or like in the floor, or like, fuck, I gotta deadlift these things. Like things were in the rack where they were supposed to be. Like I wouldn't have to deadlift this fucking dumbbells up. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But oh well. So that's gym and PR songs. So what are we talking about today?
So today, this week I was listening to the RP podcast. Shout out to them because they're one of the best podcasts.
Thanks for providing our content, RP.
Well, they really just kind of gave me an idea. They were talking about something else specifically, but they were talking about recovery inside of it. And I had just a bunch of different like thoughts that I had that I was like, this would be interesting to talk about. And I got a few things that I want to talk about. A few bullet points that we'll cover, but first, like, just get the basics out of the way and like what works with recovery. And there's three huge things for recovery.
What is recovery first? And
there you go. That's a good.
Your time, like immediately after until the time you go back to the gym is your recovery period. Yeah. So I know that sounds like a very, very generic answer, but that's the truth, right? So that includes the work that you do between then and there. That includes the food you eat, the water you drink, the other liquids you may drink, any extra exercise you might do away from the weight room, whether it be cardio or, the guys next to me in the shopping center, I got the Army recruiters. They have standards they have to meet outside the gym. They may get tests periodically and don't know necessarily when some of those things might go down. Most of the time they have a heads up on stuff like that, but they have to be able to do their push-ups, their sit-ups, their mile time, whatever it may be, right? Like, but that recovery period is anytime, basically between those things. And we are going to talk specifically about the things you can do to maximize your recovery and getting back to the gym the next time you go. So, but for the most part, I can imagine we're going to be talking about hydration, nutrition, sleep, maybe supplements.
Yeah. That's going to be like what works, right? So typically everybody knows like if you don't eat, you're not going to recover because your body is just like going to be starving itself. It's going to be drawing from your muscles if you have no fat.
And I'll be honest with you, I think simply put, most gym bros probably think of food before they think of anything else. Yeah. It's probably I don't know that it should be the number one most prioritized, but it probably is the number one most prioritized.
Yeah. I would say probably number two.
It's number two next to sleep.
Yeah. Sleep is number one.
Well, I'm thinking about it now.
You put hydration.
I would put hydration number one
before sleep.
Before sleep and food. Yeah, absolutely. We talked about it. You've heard Joe talk about it. One of the number one reasons for injuries in the gym is dehydration. Like if you have an injury, it's going to keep you from training. It also increases the time it's going to require to recover. It increases your need for nutrition and hydration and everything else. So if you neglect hydration, it goes downhill pretty quick. And it also, while definitely lack of sleep and lack of nutrition is going to lend itself to weakness in the gym, dehydration can lead up to 15% strength loss in the gym. Okay, so if you think about that random number, but because the math's easy, if your max is normally 100 pounds on something, that means if you go in dehydrated, you might only hit 85. Now you take somebody like me or Nathan that have 600 and 700 pound deadlifts respectively. you're talking about 5 times that much. You're talking about a 75-pound difference or a 90-pound difference in what we can lift just based on how much water we've drank that day. Yeah. So I do think hydration number one in the recovery slot, and I think the rest of them we could definitely argue.
Yeah.
But I think hydration is number one.
That's a really good point, and I agree with you. After you broke it down like that makes a lot of sense. Mostly just because of the getting injured thing. Like, because if you're hurt, you can't train. What are you doing?
Well, here's another thing too, and these are all very individual things. If you tend to underdrink water, something I suffer from if I underdrink my water is heartburn. What's heartburn going to lead to? It's going to be a tougher time getting to sleep.
Yep.
So now my sleep's affected.
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like hydration also affects how your body digests your food. So if you're underhydrated, guess what else is going to suck?
Your food.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to be more prone to bloat, dehydrated when you've eaten, like especially like processed carbs. Like I know you're in a situation you have to have enough calories. You're probably having to eat some pasta or something and not just rice all the time. Like a lot of us have to have a more nutrient dense carb than rice to make our calorie requirement for the day. But if you're under drinking, you're more likely to bloat from those things,
right.
And it cause some gastrointestinal like discomfort. So like I feel like hydration is the number one thing that's going to trickle down into everything else.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So
what does hydration look like for each individual? I know there is a math formula. I forget what it is.
Math formula for it.
But I know Joe was saying for me at 240, it was between 2 and 3 gallons. So I want to say it's probably roughly a gallon per 100 pounds. So when you think about that, like,
yeah, I mean
that's pretty aggressive.
That's probably pretty close. That's probably pretty close to correct. Only because I know what my heart doctor has told me, and it was a gallon of water plus like 3 quarts of electrolytes a day.
Yeah, which
would put me. It would be below that slightly. Would put me at a gallon and 3 quarters a day.
Right.
He was talking about total liquid volume, but still, I mean that's still like a tremendous amount of liquid compared to.
What most people
the recommended we're going to drink 8 bottles of water a day, which is like 64 ounces. 4 bottles is 64 ounces. Yeah. So I think that's the normal recommendation is 64,
which is a half gallon.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we really need 4 times as much water as we think we do.
Yeah.
Or we're told we do.
Right. And that also depends on, your output, and your personal systems, how you're.
Something you obviously know from talking to Joe, but electrolyte balance matters. So like us being athletes, just drinking water could actually kill you. You can flush your electrolytes and it can be detrimental for you. So like we absolutely have to supplement X amount of electrolytes through the day, especially when you're drinking a gallon plus, because you can flush those. So, which basically is going to mean you don't have the ability to retain the water that you're drinking.
Right.
And that's the necessity for the electrolytes. So
little side point. I think Braxton just joined us.
What's up, Braxton? You still watching, bud?
What did he say? I can't see from here.
What did Braxton say? This is awesome. Oh, thank you. Darian Harris, what's up, man? And Austin Warnke, also an awesome dude. So we got some people watching. But yeah, I mean, electrolyte balance matters. And I normally, just being honest, I just normally do like Powerade Zero, Gatorade Zero. I will do electrolytes, BioLite's fine, liquid IVs. You do LMNT?
On scarce occasions. When I'm really dehydrated, I'll go LMNT because they're expensive. Lately, I've actually been doing Ghost Hydration, which I really enjoy because it's easier to drink. It's so that way I can drink it easily before I go to the gym.
Another good point to that too. I don't know if the Ghost is or not, but a lot of but a lot of BCAA supplements have electrolytes in them now too. So, you more bang for your buck. Yeah, absolutely. And something like that. So that's something I would probably consider. But, you do have to have enough electrolytes. I'm of the Stan Efferdine, school of thought that we should be salting our food, especially, with iodized table salt and pink Himalayan sea salt. That covers most of our electrolyte balances. But, when you're talking about drinking that much fluids, you're really drinking more than you're eating. So you're probably going to be most efficient to consume your electrolytes in your liquid.
Right.
So, but I mean, not enough can be said about hydration, man. I mean, our whole body, our kidneys function better, our liver function better, blood volume is better. Therefore, we deliver oxygen to every part of our body better and more efficiently when we're hydrated. That means nutrient delivery is better when we're hydrated. Literally everything that you can think of is better when you've had an optimal amount of water and electrolytes. And all that being said, that's a good tie-in to the food now, I think, because now we're talking about if you're hydrated, we can provide the correct nutrition for you, and that gets delivered that much better. And I do think as much as we can prioritize sleep, I do think nutrition is probably the next thing on the list. And because of, and the reason being is because of how we're eating also could negatively or positively impact sleep. So
That's true also.
Carb timing, carbs closer to bed, you'll tend to sleep better. I've been somebody that has used the keto diet and the carnivore diet, and one of the worst parts about those things is insomnia from the lack of carbs. Also, a higher fat diet like that is going to lend itself to more likely to have heartburn, right? Which is also going to cut into your sleep. So my number 2 on this list of important things for recovery is nutrition.
Yeah, and that's fine. We can just go down like that. Yeah. I would say
we're probably splitting hairs now.
Yeah, I think sleep and recovery sleep and nutrition are very close together in terms of how much you recover. Because think about if maybe you slept 2 hours.
What's up, Grady?
How are you going to feel in the gym on 2 hours of sleep? Everybody feels like shit on 2 hours of sleep in general. That being said, if I ate a couple pounds of Taco Bell before I went to the gym, I'd probably feel a little sick at first, but I'd be able to get over it.
Yeah, I will say this too. Clinically, you're more likely to overeat if you've underslept.
Yeah, that is true.
It negatively affects how you perceive hunger and how your body processes hunger pains and stuff like that. So if you've underslept, you're more likely to eat like shit the next day.
Yeah.
Case in point, that is probably the scientific reason why you go and get real drunk one night, just get fucked up, do that weird thing where you wake up at 6 a.m. and the first thing you want is Waffle House. It's because you're dehydrated and you need food, and your body's trying to make up the energy deficit from your 3 hours of shitty sleep from getting too fucking drunk. Yeah. I mean, that's probably realistically the natural reason as to why you're going to get up and eat a bunch of a greasy fucking meal, because now you're in an energy deficit and you're going to need it. You need the food to make up for the lack of sleep and the lack of hydration and everything else that you caused yourself from that party the night before. Yeah. So, I mean, big trickle down effect, but I mean, nobody, like you said, nobody likes to go lift weights on 2 or 3 hours of sleep. Like nobody's going to be their best,
definitely,
in that situation.
Braxton just commented something.
What did he say? Gotta get right up on it here. Bulking hack undersleep. Well,
I don't know if
I guess if you need to eat more, I mean, I guess there's theoretically that could be a possibility, but what we also do know is sleep's the most anabolic part of our day, and that's where repair actually happens.
Right.
And it takes place. So you still got to maximize sleep even if you're eating a shit ton.
So even my thought on that would be you're eating a shit ton, right? You're probably just converting all of that to fat, right?
Because of cortisol levels and stuff like that being spiked. Yeah, absolutely. So there has to be balance.
Little interesting side note. You told me something about cortisol recently.
Yeah. So I test low for cortisol because apparently if you were chronically stressed, this is all reflected on my blood work, and we can talk about this if you want to in more detail. But if you were chronically stressed, your body overproduces cortisol to the point that eventually your body's just like, fuck it, and quits making cortisol. So I have a cortisol deficit, and what a cortisol deficit can do to you is make you less likely to put on muscle mass, as well as a few other things that, we could go into detail about if I had notes in front of me. But that cortisol is really, really important for your ability to gain muscle mass, your fight or flight system, how your body produces, gets up for things, get downs for things, and everything like that. Everybody hears about cortisol's bad, but it does actually serve a purpose within your body. That's not necessarily a negative one. Too much of it is negative. Not enough of it's very negative too. And I'm actually having to supplement a medicine called Adrenomed to raise my cortisol levels currently. So, but chronic stress can basically bottom your cortisol levels out, so you just don't get excited about nothing anymore, basically.
I honestly think I may be in that boat.
You might be. Yeah,
I don't know.
Absolutely.
But even though, other than the new baby and stuff, I had been relatively low stress up to that point. So I don't know if maybe I just have hit my head into a wall or something, or if it's something else related to my energy levels, I have a hard time getting excited about just about anything. So
Yeah.
Anyway, back onto the food. So we've had a lot of discussions about food as far as like what works, what doesn't, et cetera, et cetera. What we know about food is that if you want to lose weight, you need to be in a deficit. If you want to gain weight, you need to be in a surplus. If you want to stay the weight, eat.
You get a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as recovery goes, what's your number? What would be your ideal diet for recovery?
Easily digestible. So it's not going to cause you gastrointestinal stress. It's going to keep you up at night. That's the reason why traditionally we've done the vertical diet. I can no longer do the vertical diet for other reasons, but diet like Paleo Plus probably, because you're probably not going to get away with just Paleo because we need more carbs. So Paleo Plus would be like Paleo plus the addition of rice or minimally processed like whole grain breads or something like that. Something like the vertical diet. Some things that are fiber dense, nutrient dense, and also it can't just be like the paleo diet because we need it to be carb heavy enough to replace glycogen. So the paleo diet's not void of carbs, but most of them are going to come via fast carbs like fruit and not via rice and whole grains and stuff like that. So I would say something as whole foods as possible while still including calorie dense carbs to some extent. I really, really like the vertical diet because of its lack of gastrointestinal stress, and most of those carbs are going to come from white rice or sweet potato. You do get some carbs from OJ. You get some carbs in your dairy. But I prefer something like that because that added benefit of it being low digestional stress helps you sleep. It also, I don't know if you've ever deadlifted or squatted when you've been bloated.
I have.
But just that feeling of having the belt around you fucking sucks when you're bloated.
Most of the time I will take my belt off if I'm bloated.
So like I am of the opinion I would rather feel better and perform better. So I think ideal diet, I'll be honest with you, I've changed my mind about fats quite a bit. We need enough fats to be hormonally okay, and that's about all. So I think even somebody my size, I can get away with 60, 70 grams of fat. I'm probably going to need 400 plus grams of carbs. I'm going to need at least 200 grams of protein. But I very much think carbs between the 40 to 50% of your daily value is ideal for
athletic
performance. Yeah, absolutely. And they can come via fast carbs, slow carbs. There's a lot of reasons to eat both. I will say faster carbs tend to cause you less gastrointestinal distress than a slow carb does. So I will say this, like weighted around your workout, I would probably spring more for white rice than I would brown rice. I might, for dinner away from your workout, would spring for the sweet potato or something like that. But like, we probably do want to weight your faster carbs around your workout, just like you would want to weight the protein and carbs itself around your workout and keep out fat. So, that's my answer. Something low gastrointestinal stress, something calorie dense enough to make sure that recovery is happening.
All that sounds perfectly fine to me. I would just add on a little bit, maybe like, so somebody could get an idea. We always say 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And then as far as your carbs go, 40 to 50%, I would agree with that. And anywhere, I know there's a math formula for them. I know all these things have formulas, and I know none of them. That's where I'm at. But fat has a formula based on body weight, how much you need for hormonal balance. I think the lowest I ever saw was like 60. It's mostly around the 80 gram range. And I would just say try and get that from as many healthy fats as you can.
Yeah, it needs to come from
meat, avocado, eggs,
absolutely.
Nuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where I would get all of my fats from.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're doing like something like the vertical diet, which I mentioned, you're going to get most of that from your dairy and your beef. It's hard to. My one drawback about the vertical diet is it's hard to keep your fat in check because he wants you to eat full fat dairy and he does want you eating lean beef, but even sirloin is relatively fatty compared to even a chicken thigh. Like chicken, like
you might be surprised. Maybe my fitness pal is wrong, but it's always been really low, close to chicken breast.
I've never found sirloin close to chicken
really
breast. No, bison I find it pretty low, quite a bit. But you can always buy 96.4 beef. Sometimes Aldi has it, 97.3 to get more of that. If you're somebody that does use performance enhancing drugs, I would have a preference for chicken or fish, only because red meat will drive your hemoglobin up. And that does put you at higher risk for a stroke, heart disease in general. That's not to say that beef is bad for you, because it's not. It's the most nutrient dense. It may be the most perfect thing on the planet in terms of overall health. Beef is very good for you. But if you're on PEDs, you do have to understand there's going to have to be some give or take. So you would rather spring for white meat in that scenario.
Little side note, just get your blood work done so you know. Right. Yeah,
because that's speculative. Like, you may not have the same problems I do or anything else. So,
because some people, I mean, with me, I know my blood was thick years ago. They went and pulled my blood this last time, and they first came in there and said, well, it was flowing really well, so we don't think we're going to have a problem with thickness. Then they came back and they said, well, it didn't register for this, and this, which is typically
indicative of thick blood.
Yeah. So when they said that, I was like, okay, well, it's probably still at least relatively thick. So you can either donate if you're on PEDs and you don't feel comfortable with that, because they ask you those questions, and if you don't want to lie about it, you can find places, doctors that will prescribe you to have bloodlet. They do that at QC Wellness. So if that becomes an issue, that's what I'll have done, is just bloodlet.
Because I'm only on a TRT dose, when you go to donate blood, they will ask you what prescriptions you're on, and as long as your hemoglobin is in check, it's less than 17, they will allow you to donate blood if you're on PEDs. Yeah, but they have to be
prescribed.
It has to be prescribed, and it also has to be within those health markers. Like, you have to have less than 17 on your hemoglobin. But I'm due for an oil change now. If you don't give blood, you should, because it really lightens you up and really helps with energy quite a bit. Yeah. So, especially if you have high hemoglobin. So, definitely recommend doing that.
Braxton made another comment.
Braxton's on it, man. What do you say, Braxton? Monster Mash is where it's at. Yeah, that's a pretty big staple in my house for a long time.
Yeah, Monster Mash.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I can't deal with the spinach very well. That was one of my only other drawbacks of cooked spinach. Tastes like fucking grass clippings, man.
It's bad. Like, you think
I can handle it in some pasta where it's just like garlic to death or something, but like,
by itself, it's like when you scrape the underside of a lawnmower.
Exactly. That's exactly what it tastes like. Yep. I think I've told that to people too, man.
It looks like it too.
It looks like it. It does.
So, food, high carb, enough fats to maintain your hormone levels, and then enough protein to meet 0.8 to 1.2.
Yeah, absolutely. 0.8 being on the low side. I will say this: if you were in a bulk, your protein requirements do go down, because protein synthesis is better in a caloric surplus than it is at maintenance or below. So you can absolutely, and you probably should, be prioritizing carbs in a bulk over your protein. Yeah. You should still get your 0.8, but you don't have to have an exorbitant amount of protein.
Now, I have heard some people say that if you are on PEDs, that you need more protein, even if you are in a bulk.
Well, I mean, protein synthesis is higher on PEDs. So it would stand to reason that that's not true. But, there's plenty of bodybuilders out there that, weigh sub 300 pounds and are still eating 300 plus grams of protein. Yeah. Some of that, though, is as much to do with their caloric requirement. Right. So to put that in perspective, you gain 50 extra calories a day for every pound of muscle mass you weigh. So if you're, 320 pound bodybuilder and you have 170, pounds of skeletal muscle mass on your frame, you're going to get more calories than the fat guy that weighs 320 pounds. So that's important to note. Right. I mean, so it may just be that their caloric requirement is just that much higher and not necessarily directly tied to the percentage of protein, if that makes sense. That's fair. But also, a good thing about eating protein is the protein is working for you. Mm-hmm. And mostly, the carbs are working for you. And you're not just eating, when you're eating protein, you're not eating an empty calorie. Yeah.
How do you feel about Mark Bell's thoughts on it, where protein is quote unquote free?
I think, I've had clients that have used similar methods, right? Like Weight Watchers now. Mm-hmm. I know everybody just rolled their eyes when I said Weight Watchers, and that's fine. Weight Watchers now, lean protein is free. Like chicken breast is a free, like you don't have to count towards your points. That's pretty good because if you sit down and eat 10 ounces of chicken breast in a meal, you're less likely to eat, double your serving in rice or bread or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense and it does work for you. Mainly, I think what it is it basically boils down to the calories in, calories out perspective. If you're overeating protein, you're less likely to overeat fat and carbs, which is going to take calories out of your diet. We know that every gram of protein has 4 calories per gram. It's the same thing for carbs, actually. But it's 9 grams of protein, 9 calories per gram of fat.
Yeah.
So if you're overeating clean carbs and clean protein, you're less likely to overeat total calories.
Yeah.
I think the American problem with carbs isn't carbs so much as the things that happen to be associated with carbs. Like I've said something about a dinner roll a couple of times in here, eating bread. Well, if you go sit down at Logan's and get a thing of bread, what does it come with?
Cinnamon butter. Well, that's Texas Roadhouse, but
it comes with butter, right? Like if you just stop, if somebody was to just stop at the bread, it's not necessarily a problem. You got 200 calories a roll, right? The problem is a half a cup of the butter is another 200 calories.
Yeah.
So you could have had 2 rolls, but instead you had a roll plus butter with calories that are probably less workable and less usable to your body than so. I mean, that's the idea of overeating protein, is that it's going to keep you from eating
all the
fat
shit
or carbs that are associated with fat.
And if you ever eat 10 ounces of chicken in one sitting, you don't want to eat much.
Yeah, that's a lot of fucking chicken.
It's rough. I usually go 7. I was used to do 1 pound of meat with all of my meals. Well,
like uncooked weight?
Yeah, that was uncooked weight. I don't know what it boiled down to, cooked weight, but I always remember feeling like, man, this is a shit ton of like meat. And then when I started doing cooked weight and I would do 7 ounces, I was like, this is a lot of fucking food.
Yeah.
So like the most I've done is 8 ounces cooked here recently, and that's still just like, whew.
What's Braxton got for us now? What's up, Sam? I may have missed the main topic, but have y'all gone over clean bulks versus dirty bulks, pros and cons of each? We have not talked about that, but we could.
We could. It's a little less on the side of recovery, but
well,
just to answer for IG.
Yeah, to answer that, I mean, by and large, if you're bulking, you're probably getting enough calories to recover. What we need to think about, and Dr. Lane talks about this, and he can specifically give you the studies. I'm sure somewhere on his page he has these, where adipose tissue, meaning fats in your diet, are more likely to store as adipose tissue. So my argument against a dirty bulk would be, if you're over consuming fat, you're more likely to put on fat.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're over consuming carbs, you're more likely to have that to be usable energy for you and not just stored as fat.
Yeah.
And the reason being is, you probably know better than, you're a biomedical dude, like you probably know better than we do, but basically the energy systems that change these things into energy that is usable, it's a more direct line for fat to store as fat than it is for a carb to store as fat. So I would say this, a clean bulk's always going to be better than a dirty bulk, just based on the fact that you're going to consume more clean carbs, more fat-free carbs, in other words, and less total fat than you would if you were on a dirty bulk. That's my argument for that.
The only side for the dirty bulk would potentially be, it's easier to eat more food, so it's easier to put on that weight.
Sure.
That being said, what you gain in the dirty bulk muscle-wise and the clean bulk, even if it's more difficult and maybe you even eat less, you're probably getting more quality muscle tissue out of the clean bulk. On the side of the dirty bulk, as someone who has been actually affected by it, I have such a high metabolism that's so hard to put on weight that even like a huge dirty bulk, like eating ice cream every day, like I was doing,
it's hard to put on weight.
Right.
Now, if you're a hard gainer, that's a really good point. I think if you're a really hard gainer, there may be some really good benefits to a dirty bulk just based on food volume, because you could go order some Chinese food, absolutely tear it up, get 2,500 calories in a sitting, and still be hungry 2 hours later.
Yep.
Versus if you eat 6 cups of rice and 10 ounces of chicken in a meal, it's going to take you 8 hours before you're ready to eat again. And then all of a sudden you are taking away your own ability to gain that weight.
Yep.
So just from a food volume perspective, there's a case for dirty bulk, just because Just because you're going to be able to eat more calories quicker and more comfortably.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
So, I mean, dirty bulk if you want to. Braxton's fit enough and smart enough that he probably knows when to add things, when to subtract things. I would probably, even in a dirty bulk, I would probably present it to a client if I was working with somebody as we're going to clean bulk Monday through Friday, 1 meal on Saturday, 1 meal on Sunday is a free meal, fucking tear it up.
Yeah.
I would probably present it like that before I would just tell them to
just eat what you want.
Eat everything in sight. Yeah, absolutely. Because we still want to have some control over the weight we gain being muscle or fat.
Yeah.
Mass moves mass, but we talked about it in a prior episode. Muscle mass moves more mass than fat mass moves.
Yes.
So we still want to prioritize, even as strength athletes, where it's okay for us to be a little chubby, we still want to prioritize the gain of lean muscle mass over fat mass.
And I mean, let's just be honest. Look at the people who are winning. It's the people who look like off-season bodybuilders.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are the people who are winning right now.
People that are winning powerlifting meets look fit. They know that, we've said this before, but gone are the days of the fat powerlifter, even in heavier weight classes now. Mm-hmm. Larry Wills proved that when he broke all of Eric Lilliebridge's shit at 286 in a 308 weight class.
Yep.
That came in 20 pounds light and still fucked everybody up. So, I mean, there's a lot to consider there. I definitely think when it just comes to energy stores, you're definitely going to want to prioritize the glycogen stores you're going to get from the carbs, the fact that you're going to put on more lean mass. Everything that goes into a clean bulk is still going to be preferable, with the exception of food volume. Food volume is the only case for a dirty bulk.
Right. So we can kind of stray away from food and go into sleep. One thing that I wanted to talk about, sleep sounds really simple, right? Because it's just like you get 8 hours of sleep and that's it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the long and short of it. Just get 8 hours of sleep. But that's not necessarily the best thing, because let's say you got absolutely trashed and you pass out on the couch. All that alcohol in your system is going to make your recovery while you're sleeping absolute dog shit. Yeah. Don't matter how much you sleep.
Quality of sleep matters.
Quality of sleep matters more than volume of sleep. That's not to say you can get 1 hour of quality sleep and it's the same as 8 hours, but like there are some people who...
It's not necessarily equal.
No, but quality matters. I would say quality matters more than volume within reason, right?
Right, yeah. I mean... You know, for your mental capacity, for your brain to work like it's supposed to, we have to have a minimum of like 4.5. Mm-hmm. So like for you to be able to function at 100%, like mentally. So like, I would say that if you're looking at it that way, 4 hours of good sleep is probably better than 5 hours of bad. Mm-hmm. It's probably not perfectly like just this. Good sleep's always better, right? But like, there's so many things we can do to improve. Stan Efferding talks about this. The word he uses is sleep hygiene. There's so many things we can do to improve sleep hygiene, to make it easier to get to sleep, to make it easier to stay asleep, to make the sleep itself more restful, that a lot of us don't even think about and don't take advantage of. And even though he doesn't explicitly say this, but the number one on my list is a reduction in caffeine consumption.
Yeah. What is the half-life of caffeine? Is it
8 hours?
8 hours?
So if you work out at 9 in the morning like I do, mm-hmm. and you take a 400 milligram scoop of pre-workout, what is that? By 5 o'clock, mm-hmm. you still have 200 milligrams in you. Yep. That's assuming that you haven't drank
an energy drink,
a soda, energy drink, something like that throughout the day.
A supplement.
So it's very, very, I have lived this. I don't know if Sam's still watching or not, but when she was still working out with Sandy in the morning, there was times where the four of us would get together and go work out in the morning. I might have 2 scoops of pre-workout. Mm-hmm. I was taking Total War at the time. That's 400 milligrams a scoop. I was taking 800 milligrams of caffeine at one time, even at 5 in the morning, right? By 10 in the morning, I've trained a few clients. I've trained myself. Let's go get a cup of coffee.
Yep.
I drink stout coffee from Starbucks. It's about 200 milligrams a shot. There's another 200, so I'm at 1,000 on the day. Okay. That also resets my half-life.
Yep.
And before you know it, by the time I have an energy drink in the afternoon or another cup of coffee in the afternoon and a couple of sodas, all of a sudden I've had 1,500 milligrams of caffeine. And at 9 o'clock at night, because it just kept rolling over, I still have 750 of it in my system. Of course, you're not going to fucking sleep.
Yeah.
Like, and we talked about this with Joe, but like the idea of like stimulus input If you want caffeine to work for you, you have to quit using caffeine.
Yeah.
Getting more and more addicted to caffeine is not going to make that caffeine work better. Abstinence from caffeine is what's going to make the caffeine work. If you want your 200 milligram cup of coffee to work for you energy wise, you probably don't need to be drinking 6 of them a day.
Yeah.
Have your one a day and be done. That's been one of the greatest things for sleep that I've done for myself is like limit stimulants. Like beyond a certain point in the day, stop fucking drinking it. Like you want to go to, we really need to be in bed. People can argue this with you if you want to. And Braxton, I know in your situation, you probably can't help it because you're up studying and stuff. We really need to be in bed by 9 or 10. That's the way the body's designed. We need to be getting up at 5 or 6. That's the way the body's designed. Like we need to be, you go to sleep when the sun goes down, you wake up when the sun rises. That's roughly what we're supposed to be doing, right? If you're just overstimulated all the fucking time, it's going to add to anxiety, which is going to add to a lack of sleep, which is going to add to anxiety and your need for more caffeine to stay. It's like this vicious cycle, man. And it was like, it probably did irreparable damage to my heart. Like after that stint in 2019, I had really, really bad mental health. And one of the things on top of being on all kind of PEDs that I specifically remember about that year was my caffeine consumption was through the roof. My resting heart rate now is like, I'm an athlete. My resting heart rate is like fucking 90.
Right.
It was never like that before that year of drinking 1,500 milligrams a day. And I don't do that anymore. And it's still like fucked up,
right.
Beyond what I can think of. But, I mean, the very first thing you can do for sleep hygiene is start cutting out some fucking stimulants.
Yeah.
One.
Another good thing about specifically sleep hygiene is setting up a routine, whatever it may be, as far as like, for me, it's always, I have these 3 supplements I take when I go to sleep, which is sleep mode, which is just a bunch of like different things to help you relax and be rested.
Sure.
I take, why am I drawing a blank?
Oh, no.
There's 2 other things. Anyway, I take these 3 things before I go to sleep. And I always make sure to shut everything down. I have something to eat. Well, I have something to eat, then take my supplements. And if I'm coming home from work, I'll take a shower, and then it's time for bed. Like that's my routine. Now you can have a much better routine, cutting off TV, wearing blue light blocking glasses, all this stuff. This is a lot of extra stuff that will help your sleep and give you a better sleep routine. Typically, they say like couple hours before bed is when you should start wearing them if you're going to continue watching TV, or just turn off the TV, read a book. Like there's a lot of different things you can do to get your mind ready for sleep.
Sure.
And then once your mind and your body are ready for sleep,
that's sleep hygiene.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Stan's talking about. Caffeine, reduction of blue light, a dark room, turn the lights off, read a book instead of watching TV, listen to music instead of watching TV.
Red light if you're going to
red light's
bulbs.
Good. You can do all types of there's different frequency training you can do. So like white noise, pink noise, stuff like that can help. The biggest things I have found that help are a dark room and turning the fucking TV off.
Yeah. And
that lack of caffeine, obviously.
It doesn't cost that much to get blackout curtains.
It doesn't. No, and you need. I think everybody needs them anyway. It'll keep your room cooler too.
Yeah.
Which also, a cooler house is better sleep quality too. So, the hotter you are, the less likely you are to sleep good. And that's really, really important too. But all this stuff surrounding sleep hygiene. I mean, we could probably spend a whole episode on this. But I'll say this too, as a weightlifter, and this is something I've experienced firsthand. You've gone on to different methods of handling this. But because we're men, we're heavier weight, we have very, very high muscle mass for a frame. I measure in the 120s. I think you measure in the 120s too, in terms of muscle mass. Yes. Most of our body is skeletal muscle mass at this point. When you have that uptick in skeletal muscle mass, your neck gets thicker, and the thickness of your neck, both from fat gain and from muscle gain, is the cause of obstructive sleep apnea. If you're in the gym and you're in the gym regularly and you're doing it with any type of zeal at all, I would say get a sleep study done, assess whether or not you have sleep apnea. If you do, you should look into a CPAP or some of these other alternatives. I know Nathan uses strips or something now. I like the CPAP. I got used to it fine. Some people can't do that, but that may be the number one thing for sleep hygiene is making sure you can breathe when you're asleep at night. If you're a snorer, regardless of how much you weigh, if you snore, probably have sleep apnea. You should look into doing something to remedy that.
Yep. Deviated septum can also be the cause of that, which has nothing to do with the thickness of your neck, stuff like that. So that's just more reason to go get a sleep study.
More reason to go get a sleep study done.
If you have a partner and they tell you you're snoring, just go get a sleep study. It's worth it. Like, I wish I could be used to my CPAP. I could never get the hang of it. I tried for weeks and could not. I always ended up tearing it off my face. I would say, unfortunately, I did have to have the one for my mouth because my mouth would open. Then I tried the nasal strips, noticed a big difference, not as much snoring, sleep's getting better. So that is an alternative.
It took me a solid 3 months to get used to my CPAP. So much so that my insurance threatened to take it away from me.
Right.
Because they said I wasn't using it. And I was trying to go to sleep in it every night. And it was probably about the 3 or 4 month mark before I could get a full night of sleep in it.
Right.
Now I'd put that motherfucker on and take a nap.
Yeah.
Honest to God. Like, the only way I fall asleep without it now is if I'm sitting up, but that's also going to help with
airflow and stuff.
Airflow and stuff
so
like that.
That's another thing that I do have. I have an adjustable bed frame, so I can set it up at an angle. It does help. It actually has a mode for snoring that sets you up at the best angle for... I actually put it up a little further than that personally just because it's more comfortable to me.
I can't sleep reclined, or I would. Like, I can sleep in my recliner almost laying flat, but not sitting up.
Oh, I can fall asleep on my couch like nobody's business.
I've never been one to do that. But, I mean, taking advantage of, I mean, there's as much things surrounding sleep as there is nutrition and hydration.
It really is.
Honestly, if you want a ticket to high performance really quick, the easiest one is hydration.
Yeah.
And it seems to be the one that people are least willing to do.
Right.
Which is insane because, like, it is free performance in a bottle. Like, you're not going to find anything cheaper than water.
Yeah.
It's incredibly, incredibly beneficial. I think the best, to recap sleep before we move on to the next thing, which is the least important, despite what most of you think. Recap sleep. You should look at your sleep hygiene, turn the TV off, do some more reading, put your cell phone down, get into bed earlier, try to get into bed and wake up at the same time. That sounds cheesy, but it's true. Yep. Blackout curtains, get a sleep study done, especially if you use PEDs, and limit stimulants. Yep. Try to stay away from those. If you have a medical need for a stimulant like Adderall or Vyvanse or something like that, theobromine, anything like that, by all means, you're still going to have to take it, I understand, but you should definitely work on limiting the rest of your stimulant intake to make up for that.
Big Joe Sullivan quote here: control what you can control.
Control what you can control, absolutely. I will say this, and this is the only other thing I have in the past, and y'all have heard me talk about on this podcast, I have in the past been a proponent of the use of marijuana to help you sleep. I no longer believe that because tied to my cortisol levels is pot has a residual effect of shutting down your fight or flight and may be partially responsible for tanking my cortisol. Not only will it limit performance in the day of in the gym because you're less likely to get up for it, it may actually have a negative chronic effect on your cortisol. And that's only speculative, but it is speculative based on real blood work. Those numbers have improved for me since I quit using marijuana. So despite it being a sleep aid, I would be very, very careful with things like marijuana. Melatonin is something I limit now. I don't take it unless I absolutely have to have it. I would watch how often I use marijuana, melatonin, and antihistamine, anything like that, because it can negatively affect your fight or flight system.
What do those last several comments say before we move on?
He probably has smart things to say. Sleeping 9 to 5 or 6 to 10 was a game changer for me on the sleep. Hard to maintain that during the weekends for me personally, but it helped a lot. That's fair.
That's fair.
Yep.
So
awesome. Supplements. We can go over like just all the supplements for recovery, not just drugs, but yeah, sure. I mean, the top 2 supplements for recovery right off the top of my head, over the counter, are protein and carb powder.
Right.
Or an electrolyte we've talked about before because it helps with those kind of things. Not performance enhancing in the sense that you're going to get an immediate benefit from it, but protein obviously is going to help you build muscle. We talked about your protein requirements. We know how much you need. It can be hard to eat it. it might be beneficial to drink it. That's pretty much the by and large on the protein.
Yeah.
Carb powder, you can see an immediate benefit in terms of performance in the gym, energy in the gym. Pump's going to be a little bit better, stuff like that. So there may be a case for carb powder, though I would prefer as a personal trainer for you something like OJ with sea salt or something like that in it first.
I will just say this. For me, in my current state where I'm bulking, it's an easy extra 50 carbs in a day to just throw 2 scoops into your water.
Sure, that's also is about the macro breakdown on 2 servings of OJ too.
Yeah,
it's 50 to 60 carbs depending on the brand. So either which one you want to do is fine. Neither one of them are going to kill you. Really, really good. That's pretty much the by and large on those 2 supplements. The next one and most obvious and the most studied is creatine monohydrate. Not creatine phosphate, not creatine, whatever the fuck you want to call creatine. Creatine monohydrate is the most studied supplement that we have. We know it has a direct performance benefit. We know it helps with water retention, which could aid in that hydration issue that we were talking about. And it is extremely, extremely safe. Not a whole lot to be said about that. If somebody is selling you, I know the CrossFitters have pissed me off lately, so I'm just going to go on this rant reel. They fucking suck. CrossFitters are obsessed with this fucking bucked up like 5-point or 6-point fucking creatine that has like 6 different creatines in it, and they just do not seem to understand because they're fucking retarded that the only creatine that works is creatine monohydrate. Creatine monohydrate is uncomfortable for people because it does tend to make you bloat. And that's the reason that they don't actually want to take creatine monohydrate, but it is also the only one we know that fucking works. Creatine monohydrate should be the only creatine supplement you are taking. If you want to take it powder, pills, a flavored powder, however the hell you want to take it, doesn't matter. But creatine monohydrate works. Take it. Helps. I guess y'all want to get into the more illicit supplements now.
The more illicit, yeah. Let's go on. Let's go on. So, obviously, any sort of androgenic is going to be...
Yeah, and even some, HGH is not an androgen.
Yeah. But it is good for...
Peptides are not androgens, but all those things are viable and useful.
This is true.
The biggest disclaimer, and y'all have heard me say that, me and Nathan both say this time and time again, if hydration's not right, if sleep's not right, if nutrition's not right, you doing androgens is pissing in the fucking wind.
Yep.
It's not to say that they won't help a little bit, but they're not helping near as much as they could if you're not sleeping, eating, and drinking.
Yeah.
Period. There's a reason why supplements are number 4 on this list. It's because anabolics do not make as big of a difference as food and sleep and hydration. Period.
Yeah.
There's no amount of argument with that you can do. You can't say, well, this worked for my friend or this worked. Food, sleep, and hydration is way better and even more anabolic than anabolics are.
Yep.
So you better fucking figure that out first.
Yeah. Because at the point that you start to try and replace it with all these other things is the point where you start abusing it. And when you start abusing it is when you get into dangerous territory of horrible side effects.
One of the first things that made me notice that maybe anabolics weren't all they were cracked up to be was the fact that I was on a stack one time of Test E, Trin E, and Masteron E. I was taking 1.5 milliliters 3 times a week, so a half milliliter a piece 3 times a week. And it caused me basically to have menopause. I'd have fucking crazy hot flashes, wake up in the middle of the night pouring sweat, and I wouldn't sleep.
Yep.
At that point,
it's taken away.
If it's taking away the most anabolic part of your day, then damn it, being an anabolic, you're fucking missing out on something, right? If you're too tired to fucking function because you haven't slept in several nights, that's a problem.
We just talked about how you feel.
I remember on that cycle, there was a time toward the end of it where I averaged like an hour and a half of quality sleep a night. Mm-hmm. That's not making you stronger. It's not making you bigger. It's not benefiting you in any type of way. You're just fucking torturing yourself. So all this stuff, before we get too deep in it, it needs to be done responsibly. You need to get your blood work done. We're not doctors, so keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. But the things that benefit me now is a less is more approach. I really, really believe in a minimal dosage of any type of anabolic you're taking. And there's a few things that have helped me more than they've helped others. I'm going to talk about it from my personal point of view. Nathan can talk about it from his. Right now, currently what I'm taking is 200 milligrams of Test C a week, which is my TRT dose. That's not your normal TRT dose. That's what is prescribed to me. I also take ibutamorin, which is MK677. It's a SARM, but it is a precursor to ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and a precursor to HGH. The reason I'm taking that is HGH itself is a sleep aid, and I just simply can't afford HGH, so that's the reason I have replaced it with ibutamorin. And then I also take the female sex hormone progesterone to help me keep me in balance, and I also take anastrozole, which is an estrogen blocker. The progesterone is also a sleep aid, and I can tell you the progesterone and the ibutamorin have done more for quality of sleep for me than melatonin, an antihistamine, marijuana, or anything like that ever has. I will also tell you that my test levels are higher now on 200 milligrams of test than they were when I was on 1,000 milligrams of Tren test and an oral, with much, much better blood work. So when it comes to anabolics, I definitely am I'm of the mindset of a less is more approach. I do feel like I'm at a place now that if I wanted to take an additional 200 milligrams a week of testosterone, that it could be plenty of performance enhancing benefits. But I'm also at a place where I'm healthier than ever. And I'm also stronger than I've ever been on the least amount I've ever taken.
Yep.
So a lot to be said for that.
Yep. I mean, for me, in the past, I hadn't really done much except get personal blood work done. So I can't really say like all these things that a doctor prescribed me. I will find out on the 20th what I'm actually prescribed. But I would say I felt my best typically on, as far as the performance enhancing dose would be like 500 test and a couple IUs of growth hormone. That's when I felt my best.
Growth hormone is awesome.
Growth hormone, typically for just recovery reasons, you want 2 to 3 IUs a day before bed. It helps you sleep. It helps your sleep recovery. Obviously, it's growth hormone. It's supposed to make you grow.
Yeah.
So make your muscles bigger.
Yeah.
Also, the risk, though, is when you start taking performance-enhancing doses, enlarged organs, stuff like that. So you want to be careful the amount that you take and how long you take it for. It is a slow-acting drug, so you do want to also keep that in mind that you won't see immediate benefits from growth hormone. You won't see the benefits until a month or two down the road of you actually taking it. So just be aware of that. It's not a fast-acting drug, but it will help your sleep and it'll help improve your quality of life. So there is reasons for it. There's reasons that, you know, all these things were created with a medical reason.
I did get confirmation a couple weeks ago too that I did after my labral tear, I did do several cycles of HGH, and I did get medical confirmation that an injury that does not normally heal itself without surgery did in fact heal itself through the use of HGH. Yep. So HGH is a miracle drug. Very, very little side effects if you're not abusing it. The most I've taken is 5 IUs. I suggest it. Yep. Braxton did just ask if we saw any sleep benefits from a mild cycle of testosterone. I have a very specific answer for this, but I'll let you answer.
I don't recall getting sleep benefits from taking like a TRT dose. But that being said, my sleep ever since I got heavier has just been worse. And then not having the CPAP and struggling with that, there's a lot. I couldn't really give you a good answer on that from my perspective.
I'll be honest with you, Braxton, at a performance enhancing dose. So I'm going to say anything over 200 milligrams. I personally, because your blood pressure raises, that also tends to raise your stress levels and your anxiety some. I find it hard on more than 200 milligrams to get to sleep. I will stay asleep though. But I do tend to be a little bit more anxious on a performance enhancing dose than I am on a TRT dose. Yeah. So anything that raises your blood pressure and your heart rate like testosterone does, I would be wary to say that it's going to improve sleep quality across the board. It might improve it once you're to sleep, but I know for a fact it does not help me get to sleep. The TRT dose is fine, but you also have to remember the TRT dose is what it takes for me to be normal. So take that with a grain of salt. And like I said, we're not doctors. This is speculation. Just for me personally, a performance-enhancing dose of test has never directly helped me sleep.
I will say this, as far as like going from completely off to being on 200, which is what I'm taking right now, just to get me through until I get my prescription, I have noticed a difference in the deepness of sleep that I have. I have a watch that covers my my sleep quality, and the best score that I've had since having it, since being on TRT, was a 97, and the best that I had it not on TRT was like a 70. So take that with what it is. The data from a watch isn't necessarily the most reliable, but that is a huge swing.
I would say, honestly, you probably have access to this as a medical student, a biomedical student. I would probably get on PubMed, NHIL, or whatever it is, and I would honestly do some research on it. Like I said, my experience is on the front end, not necessarily the quality of my sleep, but just my ability to get to sleep. So it's all speculative from our perspective right now. He does have some actual data that suggests otherwise. But it's also individual to him. So, like, I would definitely try to, if you have access, I would definitely try to consult PubMed over and just see what type of studies are done. Or even somebody like, your dad's a pharmacist, ask him. He prescribes that to people every day. So he's going to have a lot better chemical understanding of the goings on with that than me and Nathan do. So,
for sure.
But we're not cutting the podcast short, but we are going to end Instagram Live right now just because my phone's about to die. And then we're going to get to the rest of our episode off air. So y'all have a good night. Thanks for listening.
I guess we could have plugged your phone up if you brought a charger, but that's all right.
I didn't think about it.
That's okay. So we were on supplements. Do you have anything else to add on supplements? I think that was pretty well covered.
That was pretty well covered. Yeah, I mean,
so
BCA supplements if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, because it helps with protein synthesis. If you're a meat eater or if you supplement whey or isolate protein, it probably has the correct BCAA profile for you.
Right.
So keep those in mind.
So one thing that I also wanted to touch on as far as recovery, there's two more topics that I wanted to go over. And this one is the mental side of recovery. So there's a lot of people who don't really take that into consideration when they think about recovery, but you need to be taking your deloads or your active rest days as specifically recovery. So you need to be mentally not as stressed out. One thing that this is from the RP podcast, this is where I kind of started thinking about a lot of this stuff. But they mentioned that on your deloads or your active rest or whatever you're doing, if you're replacing the stressors of your workout with something like your job, work, family stuff, whatever it is that is adding stress to your life, it is not giving you that same recovery that you'd be getting otherwise.
I mean, because you're going to, even though you're not physically dealing with the same things, it still elicits a response from your CNS and your SNS and your PNS.
Yeah.
So your whole nervous system is still going to be affected by stress, whether it's a physical one or a mental one or anything like that. So that's a very, very good point. And it goes back to something we talked about with Joe of controlling what you can control, and also which means controlling certain inputs, right? So on deload week, you probably shouldn't be taking a bunch of pre-workout and listening to loud music.
Yeah.
You need to act like you fucking been there. It's lightweight. Get your workout done. Get the fuck out and go home. Right. But it does extend into real life too. But those things are harder for us to control, especially as an entrepreneur. I have to deal with some bullshit all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's always something I could be fucking dealing with. But even people that work for somebody else, I mean, you don't know what your job is going to hand you every day. Those things are. There's an element of that that's a little bit outside of our control. Where I agree with them completely. Some stressors are just going to be there.
Yeah. I think the thing was added stress. So let's say you normally work 8 hours in a day and you're like, well, if you're I'm
not working out, I can work 12 today.
Right. Exactly. So you're adding that extra 4 hours of mental stress, assuming that it's a mentally stressful job, right? If you're doing something that's relatively easy or fun or something, some people get to do jobs that are interesting and fun, and that's not as much added stress. But when you're looking at maybe you've got a really big deadline and you're like, well, I'm going to schedule my active rest along with this huge deadline for this project that I have. Right?
Probably not wise.
Probably not. You're adding more. Now, maybe you do have to get this done, and either way it was going to happen, right? But like overloading yourself is really the point I think they're trying to make.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't need to take on just more just because you have
because
less
it's
that
available.
week.
Yeah. Maybe you're like with me working at the warehouse, it's like, oh, well, I'll just grab some overtime this week if it's offered and, replace my workout with overtime. But you're adding stressors. You're
Right.
like, it's physical labor most of the time. Now, my job is more the mental side of things because I deal in quality. But like for those people who are going in there and doing the physical side of things, they're just adding more stressors. They're adding more energy output, So just keeping that in mind, and obviously the mental capacity of things, you don't want to add mental stressors as well. Like you think about the holidays just happened. A lot of people get mentally stressed out because they have to plan stuff, they have to cook all this stuff, and then when like, well, I'm going to take this time, and it's like, well, you're not going to get the most out of it, out of your active recovery or your deload week by adding all this stuff on that week. And that being said, it may work out to the best for you, but just assuming that you're going to recover as well as if you didn't, right?
Right. There's some things you can put into practice. My wife is a yogi. She just graduated from yoga school, stuff like that. Mindful meditation, stuff like that, something that crowd believes in that I don't participate in necessarily myself. But maybe just like more lower key activities on those recovery times, like, reading instead of watching TV. Maybe just like taking pre-workout, maybe that's not the week that you're going to listen to your PR playlist. Like little things like that. Just like Joe talked about, controlling inputs. You shouldn't necessarily have to have like a real hard dick to go fucking squat 225 on your deload.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it should, you're not going through the motions. You should be working to improve something always, but it shouldn't be just terribly taxing mentally or physically to have to think about squatting,
right.
40% of your 1 rep max, what I mean? Like, so, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things to consider. It goes back to controlling what you can control. And on a down week that's not supposed to be stressful, you need to do the best you can within your ability to make sure that week is down and not stressful.
One interesting thing I heard not too long ago was like on those times when or just every day in general, just breathing through your nose for 15 minutes. Just like that's it. That's all you do. You don't think about anything. It's kind of like a meditative state. Right? It's where you're kind of just clear-headed. The only thing you're thinking about is your breathing. You just breathe in and out through your nose for 15 minutes.
Both of us are fucking mouth breathers anyway and could learn how to breathe through our nose a little bit better. So
I've definitely gotten better since I worked with Joe. But I still, I feel like I swap in between depending on the situation.
I feel like the CPAP was a big improvement for me because I do wear just a nose piece because of the beard. And that was I feel like that was a big benefit for me specifically, to be honest with you. I can't breathe if I have my mouth open because it's just a nose piece. So that helped me out tremendously. I will say this, it's underrated, and this is something Joe believed in, but improving your cardiovascular capacity will make things less stressful for you in general. So the better your heart is, the less up it is, the better you're going to respond to stress. So taking care of yourself, eating a diet that's healthy enough that's conducive to cardiovascular health, but also doing enough cardio in and of itself can help reduce stress. Now, I will say this, you probably don't need to be going and testing your 5K time on your deload week for powerlifting, but you probably do need to be trying to get your 10,000 steps in, whether that's X amount of time on a cardio implement or just a walk around the park or whatever the fuck it may be, or walking a little bit, getting up one more time at work. You probably should be focused enough on being heart forward. That way you can handle more stress in the future.
Yep. Kind of did this out of order, but we're talking about the recovery on active rest and deload, but auto regulation is another form of recovery.
Sure.
Yeah, so, and that can be used in either auto regulated in the fact that your day to day is auto regulated, your week to week, your block is auto regulated,
rep to rep.
There's a lot of different ways to look at it. What do you think is the best way to auto regulate your work?
I think the best way, honestly, I still like programming a hard number because I still feel like 99.9% of people, you would be the only person I have right now that I would give an RPE to on a main barbell movement and trust that you would hit an RPE correctly.
Right.
I think honestly what it comes down to in terms of auto regulation is not the principle in the programming, but it's just a willingness to say, Zach has me programmed at a squat single at 405 today. I just simply don't have that in me. I'm going to text him and say 365 is my cap. I did the best I could. Drop down and did my drop sets if I could. Just being honest with yourself is the best form of auto regulation.
That's really fair.
Just saying, because a lot of us, myself included, I might get programmed a 9, and I really want that to be a 9 with all my heart, and go back and look at it, and it's a fucking 6. There's been times I really wanted something to be a 9 and going back and looked at it, and it was a fucking 11.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, there's a degree of, while I would trust myself for you with that type of auto regulation before I would a lot of clients, there's just a degree of that's still, there's still a fallacy in that to a degree, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, I think if I were working with, like, powerlifting clients I'm doing more online training with now than I am in person, if I'm watching this person squat up to an RPE 9, I feel like I would trust that being with them more than, you know what I mean? But just a willingness to say, hey, man, I'm beat up. 405 isn't happening today. I'm going to take as close as I can to it within reason without hurting myself, and just being honest with me, because everything's fluid and everything changes program to program, day to day anyway in a program. I may have, a lot of the times I have the next 20 weeks planned for somebody. That doesn't mean that a single day or a single set can't change.
Right.
The end goal, the beginning's the same, the end goal's the same. Like, we're still going to get there. The next workout might not even have to change, depending on, unless it's an injury, you know, it might just be a bad day. But I just think the best auto regulation is just being honest with yourself and just saying, today I got it, and today I don't. And I think that's, if we can get more and more people dialed into that, then it's easier and easier to trust them with an RPE or a reps in reserve or a daily max. Like, there's been times I've used, like, if you use any type of conjugate training, we use a daily rep max. It might be find a 3 rep max on 2 board press. Well, that's all well and good, but today's 2 board may be different than 6 days from now's 2 board press. Like, you may feel better, you may feel worse, right? But there has to be a degree of auto regulation to say that's what I'm going to get today. It's a daily 1 rep max. No, 3 rep max, not the best you've ever done, right? I think that if you can get somebody dialed in enough that they can be honest with themselves about the work that you've given them, then it's a little bit easier to cut them loose on an RPE, RIR system, a daily rep max system, something like that. But I think being honest with yourself and being honest with your coach and you had this experience with Joe. There was some days you just didn't have it. Yeah. And you got to tell them, hey, I just don't have it. That might save you the next time, and it may be the reason why you have it next time. Right. You know, so you have to be, and it also may be the reason you stay injury free. So I think the best auto regulation is honesty. Right.
No, that's a good point. One thing that I did want to touch on, because there's a lot of different ways to approach auto regulation, right? So Joe's was week to week. So he would plan next week after he got the numbers, after he saw the list, like, okay, he was capable of this, this, and this. They looked like this, so he should be capable of this. I personally like 3 weeks on, then deload, and I like it to be structured, relatively linear. And if we run into a hiccup in the road somewhere, we course correct. Even if it's day to day, rep to rep, whatever it may be, we course correct in the moment, and then like see where we're at the following week, stuff like that. Maybe it's the following block changes. Maybe we do some shifting around. Specifically talking about that, I just swapped around Desi to undulate her deadlifts because she's just been getting really beat up by deadlifts. Sure. She's really tall for a woman, so like
she's also coming off of a pregnancy.
Yep. So there's a lot of things where deadlifts are just really hard for her. She was able to squat a lot easier than she was able to deadlift while she was pregnant. So that squat volume stayed in there a little longer than the deadlift volume did. Sure. So she's a little bit more out of practice on deadlifts and squats. So she's been able to recover from her squats relatively well. She's also a better deadlifter than squatter, so it's less weight, so it's easier to,
it's easy to recover from just from that point.
So when we just started this block to undulate just to kind of give her some extra recovery time for her deadlifts, which seems to have done really well. We'll find out specifically next week how well, because this week was her low intensity deadlift day, and then next week it's going to be high intensity deadlift day. But you can do that. There's also Dr. Mike's favorite is deload when you need a deload week. but it's not necessarily planned or structured or anything like that. It's, I'm so fatigued, I can't do this anymore. I have to take a deload.
There's times with myself, if I'm in off-season stuff, I feel like I can go 7, 8, 9 weeks sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say that this is a disclaimer too. Just because you feel like it doesn't mean you shouldn't deload sooner than that too. But there's times I legitimately feel like I can go 7, 8, 9 weeks without deload. In season, you or Ron may have me deloading every 4, and by week 2 or 3, I feel like I need to deload.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very, very fluid thing, you know, depending on how you're thinking. So I can't disagree with Dr. Mike to some extent. I mean, the problem with powerlifting and not bodybuilding though is we have a definite end goal that we have to meet. So there's only so many workable weeks we have before we have to get on the platform. But I absolutely agree with that. Now, what you can do if you're programmed for yourself or your coach's program with you or whatever you may be, you need to communicate that and be like, hey, I'm really, really beat up. Can we push? Can we bring deload up a week? Can we push it back a week if you feel good, whatever it may be? You're probably not going to push it back. We're probably not going to buy into that, to be honest with you. But if you need to move it up, you do need to talk to them and be fluid about it. It might just be a simple case of, if you're honest about it, you might just need that day.
Yeah.
Her undulated deadlifts is a good example of that. I learned that the hard way with Ron too. Ron said, "Oh, you can't recover from this. Let's undulate them," and that's something I've put in my program and in other people's programming since. You know what I mean? It just makes sense. I mean, that could save you the next workout. You might not even have to have a whole deload week if you're willing to come to yourself or come to your coach and say, "This is where I'm at today, and we're going to have to meet in the middle."
Yeah.
So I mean, I think deloads could be fluid, and I think as powerlifters, there's probably not a really great way to make them fluid all the time.
Right.
But on a day-to-day basis, even, maybe that's better for a powerlifter, if that makes sense. Bodybuilding, I would understand, if you need to take a deload week, you can take it, but it's not going to affect your ability to get on stage. It's not going to affect your ability to cut weight or your conditioning or anything like that. But for us, we're probably working on a limited amount of time to put as much weight on the bar as we can.
Yeah.
So the answer is it depends.
I think that's true. Honestly, I think from person to person and coach to coach, you're going to find different perspectives and different reasonings. I like a planned deload just because it's there. There's kind of like that, especially if it's hard, there's that mental I
get a break here.
Yes. It's like, I know that if I get through this week, this next week's going to be easy. I'm not going to have to stress about anything. And then physically, obviously, you're recovering, and it may suck absolute butt when you're doing the deload week, because either you're going to feel like shit and everything's going to feel heavy, and you're going to be like, man, I really need this deload week because everything sucks. Or you're going to be in there like, everything feels easy. Why am I deloading? This is stupid. Right. But you're still bringing it back around to the mental side of things. You may need that mental recovery, because going hard for 2 to 3 weeks may have drained you mentally, and you may not feel the effects of it immediately until you go into week 6, 7, 8, and then mentally you're so beat up and drained, you're like, wow, I should have taken a deload week a long time ago.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is something we could probably talk about on and on.
Yeah,
limitless almost. But I mean, by and large, to recap this whole thing, you need to drink well, you need to sleep well, you need to eat well, and you need to supplement smart.
That's correct.
And then lastly, what we talked about is you need to program smart. Degree of that degree of auto regulation, the degree of honesty that's required between you and yourself, or you and your coach, or you yourself and your coach, is absolutely required for long-term success. And that's the reason why really smart people like Matt Winning have gone their whole career injury-free. You know what I mean? Like, he really likes to brag about that, and I think that's something worth bragging about. There's no shot about them, to the man about that. But there's a reason why a lot of times what separates good, average, and great from elite is a person's willingness to do these things that we talked about. And what you've heard me talk about it, my biggest problem is right now is my unwillingness to eat correctly. Is by far one of my biggest issues. If you're not willing to try to control as many factors as you can to get good at the thing that you love, then you probably just don't love it as much as you think you do.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's just
or that, or your success in it's not as important, because I don't think anybody can question my love for it, but your success in it's not as important as you say it is if you're not willing to control those things.
Right.
So But most of you aren't responsible for outliers in the community. Like as coaches, me and Nathan are responsible for other people and other people's successes. And that still matters more to me than my own success. So not saying that I get to transcend that role because I am an athlete too, but I do have other people to worry about.
Yeah.
You yourself, though, as an athlete, if you aren't controlling these things and trying to control these things, you're selling yourself short.
Yeah.
So.
And it may boil down to a mental capacity to do it too, because there may be some underlying issues mentally that, you know,
Sure.
make you go, well, even though physically you can do this thing, mentally it's like you keep being pulled away from it by something else.
Outside stresses, stuff like that, something that you can't control, and those things do happen too.
Yep.
So it is what it is. You got dad jokes?
I do.
My shit's about dad, but
That's okay. I can handle dad jokes if you need to save your energy. Recover. Your battery needs to recover. Let's see what I got. Where's my saved button? There we go. Oop.
By the way, y'all, I posted a hot take story to my feed earlier.
If you
Y'all
haven't
go watch it, and I'm waiting specifically for a certain group of people to watch it. I'm very, very excited about.
So when I was little, my parents always fed me alphabet soup, claiming that I liked it, but they were always just putting words in my mouth.
Damn.
Oh, man.
How do you get a country girl's attention?
A country girl?
Yeah,
I don't know.
attract her.
Yeah,
But-
that's pretty good.
A book just fell on my head. I only have myself to blame.
It's pretty good. Pretty good. My inflatable house got a puncture in it last night. Now I'm living in a flat.
Ugh. Oh, man.
My calculator is missing the minus button. On the plus side, it still works.
Where do lizards go to get their fallen tails fixed?
The retail store. I saw that one today.
Damn. We're on the same side. That's the problem.
I got 3 different sources now. I got 3 different. Dad Joke Central.
Uh-oh.
Sometimes they post some really shitty ones that are not funny at all. Not even like bad funny. They're just like bad. So
Taught my pet wolf how to meditate.
yeah.
Now he's a werewolf.
Man walks into a psychiatrist's office wearing nothing but plastic wrap. The psychiatrist. I don't know why I've been trying to say that wrong this whole time. Psychiatrist. I'm just going to start this one all over. A man walks into a psychiatrist's office wearing nothing but plastic wrap. The psychiatrist looks at him and says, "Well, clearly I can see your nuts."
Damn.
Here's a good one. Went to a restaurant and ordered a steak. And the waiter asked me how I liked my steak. And I said, like winning an argument with my wife. He said, rare it is.
We're sorry, girls.
I got, this is the last one.
Let's
This is the
hear it.
last one. I got fired from the bank today.
Okay.
A woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her. Yeah, abuse. Let's go.
Oh, man.
All right.
Nothing like it. Well, guys, rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Like and subscribe on
Like and
YouTube.
subscribe. Yep. Trying to think about what else. Go follow us on Instagram at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedio, at Sip It and Rip It.
Maybe we'll do another IG live. That one seemed pretty popular.
Yeah, it was. It was a positive thing, I think, for the most part. So
No.
it was fun. You know, get more and more people. Anything to get more and more people to listen to be good.
Yeah.
So not a bad thing at all. Next time we'll have a charged cell phone, so we don't have to worry about
Or
it.
just bring it,
or
plug
just
it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd probably be the smart thing to do.
It would
Don't have
be.
to worry about
That's what we learned with the camera.
yeah.
buying
Just
outside.
keep that bitch plugged in. Yeah.
It didn't have an outlet, so I had to buy a portable battery for it.
It
Basically.
seems as though I may have made a lot of people upset about that story today. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
That's
I'm
exciting.
kind of excited about it. Yeah. I didn't say anything that was untrue. I didn't.
It's
So-
true. I agree. I agree. You did.
I guess my parting message was that if you didn't watch the story, it's fine. I ain't going to recap the story, but there's certain things, there's certain fads in fitness that happen, and they may just be that, they may be fads. But if we're here for the health and well-being of you guys that listen, for our clients, for our peers and stuff like that, those fads shouldn't always be discouraged if they're something that are going to get somebody involved in fitness and think about and have them start thinking about their health and have them forward thinking about what their future and stuff looks like. You may call it a fad. It may be a fad. It, you know, as long as by and large at the end of that thing that person is healthier and it's not destroying them or hurting them or anything like that, if they come in on the other side a healthier, better person, be careful what you shit on.
Yeah.
Because as health professionals, we look every day for things to make people better. And if people get a hard on for this one specific thing and that really makes them pursue their own health and their own fitness and their own accountability and development as a person, don't sell that thing short because there's some power in it to somebody. So,
even though we like to pick on vegans,
we do, but there's plenty of reason to do that. You know, ethically, it's something I completely understand. I mean, you know, we could go on all day about that, but there is a reason somebody's doing something like that. And if it nets a healthier, smarter, more put together person, then you probably shouldn't shit on it.
Yeah.
So be forward thinking, please. Y'all be good.
Small little side note before we sign off. This is the first time I've finished my drink before you. First time ever.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
All right.
Bye, y'all.